So I had to make a change to the rules in my communities today. So I hope you know that I have 3 different communities that go along with 3 newsletters and podcasts that I host. One that's about career, one that's about small business, and one that's really about just general life, really about empowerment and building an invincible life. And I have pretty strict rules in my communities where I want people to be supportive, encouraging, want them to engage, want them to help each other, give advice, and take but also give. It's cool to come in and get help, but I want people to stick around and also give back and help other people, because we all need it from time to time. We all need encouragement and support and input, and we all have learned very different things in our lives. And what I love about the communities is I want to encourage diversity, and that is diversity in terms of gender identity and orientation and race and backgrounds and experiences and socioeconomic class, professions. It started pretty heavy with tech because that's my background. My network was pretty heavy tech. Not surprising given that I worked in Silicon Valley for 20 years. So if you see my background on LinkedIn, you know where I've been, and that's that was my social circle back then. But I came from more of a blue collar background. I didn't grow up wealthy. I spent time in the military. I worked for the police department. I was a security guard. I worked at fast food restaurants. I have all kinds of blue collar jobs in my background, and I worked on farms. So I came to a white collar job kind of late in my career, I would say, after I got my degree. And so I want diversity in the group. And I have pretty strict rules with all the isms that I will not tolerate. I don't tolerate sexism or racism, homophobia, transphobia, any of that stuff, right? And today I had to add another ism to my rules that I guess I hadn't anticipated. I should have. And that's classism. I have no tolerance for classism. I cannot stand that behavior. I encountered it growing up because, like I said, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And some of the wealthy people in town were some of the worst people in town. They treated people pretty poorly, myself included. And it was a lesson that I learned that sometimes and often the people who would help me the most and did volunteer work and charity work and contributed and supported the school and the kids were not the people with the most money. They were sometimes the worst about it and pretty bad people. So I learned that lesson early in life, and I had hoped that the whole vision of technology becoming something that could create more equality and level the playing field for people would come true. Maybe it briefly did. It sure felt like it. I did an episode with Tag Griffith, who was in tech even a little bit longer than I have been, and we knew each other at Apple back in 95, 98, that kind of time frame. And we had a vision of technology being a great equalizer and giving everybody the opportunity to learn and have global relationships and communication and friendships and be able to get an education, be able to have economic opportunity, employment, start a business. And it does do all those things, but it created this weird, I guess, this tech elite class. And I know some of these people came from money already. I know some of them, they grew up wealthy. But some of them didn't, but they came into money thanks to tech. And so they became multimillionaires. And I would unfortunately say that it changed some of them. They've become pretty big snobs and materialist, and they love flaunting their wealth. And it's unfortunate because it also bleeds over into how they treat people. And I've seen it, unfortunately, how they treat people who work in restaurants and behind the counter and their employees as if they're less than, simply because they have more money than these people. And it's we're seeing it in America. We're talking about the billionaire elite class that has been manipulating politics and buying politicians, trying to create an oligarchy and destroy our democracy so they can have unfettered access to pure capitalism. It's true, whether you agree with it or not. You need to take a look around. And it's sad. It's really unfortunate. And I see this happening with folks that I know, where they don't want to rub elbows with people that come from a different walk of life, that have a different profession, which is ridiculous. Because some of the best advice and wisdom I've received has come from people that you would not consider to be classically educated. They are not wealthy people with fancy jobs. Some were small business owners. Some were janitors that I encountered when I was in college. One guy had a PhD, he had been a professor, and he hated the politics of it. And there are a lot of politics. If you have worked in academia, you know about this. You know, if you want to become a full tenured professor. So he tapped out. Brilliant guy, very strange, very quirky. And he was a custodian so that he could research and read and write and do all the stuff he wanted to do with a job that didn't demand much from him, and tapped out of the politics, which is funny because most people would overlook him and not say, well, he's an ex-professor, he's a PhD. They wouldn't even think twice about it. And another guy that I used to meet, and we'd take a 15-minute break with each other when I was working security, and he was a veteran, I believe, of World War II. Very elderly gentleman, such a sweetheart, and he had so many stories of his times and the lessons he had learned and the regrets that he had and things he wished he'd done differently in life, and given me advice as somebody who was, I don't know, at the time, maybe 22 years old. I was young. And he always looked forward to our conversations and would say, when are you coming back? When can we talk some more? And it's just, what a wonderful old gentleman who's, again, a custodian that people ignored and overlooked. And he had such a rich depth of knowledge and wisdom. My father-in-law, one of the smartest men I've ever known, frighteningly smart, self-educated, small business owner, very entrepreneurial. You know, I learned a lot about that from him and how he tapped out of his 9-to-5 job so he could build a business and spend more time with his family. He had such deep knowledge about history and philosophy and economics, and he knew Latin and he wanted his kids to learn Latin. And just so well read. And I'm not talking about the BS street smart. I hear that all the time. So there are people who are like, oh, I'm street smart and I'm not book smart. Well, don't be proud of that. My father-in-law didn't go to an advanced, institution to get a master's or a PhD, but he read voraciously and educated himself. And he would talk with me, and I had a PhD. And I would feel so stupid talking to him because he would bring up something that was a historical event that had influenced the economy of Europe and shifted the tide of the war, all kinds of stuff. And he said, well, you remember this event, right? And I had to embarrassingly say, no, I don't. And he was always so surprised. You don't know that? You went to school? And so there were so many things that he knew. So wise, so many things that I learned from him. I learned from my father, my grandfathers, who were also blue-collar guys. One of my grandfathers was a coal miner. The other did road construction, had been a farmer. Really wise, really smart. The stuff they knew about the world and relationships and just being a good human being. So I will not tolerate classism in my communities anymore. If it crops up, it was unexpected. it's added to the rules, so I have no patience for it. There's enough of that garbage going on in the real world. We don't need it to bleed over into our communities. If you want to be a classist piece of garbage, go do it on social media, do it in your real life. Shame on you, but not in my community. I won't put up with it. So yeah, I wouldn't think I'd have to bring that up and talk about it. That's why I do these videos. I know it's funny. It's like some people are like, you're really turning people away. Well, good. There are people that will hear what I have to say, my belief system, and what I will tolerate and not tolerate, what I encourage, what I'm trying to create with my communities, and say, that sounds good. I want that. I want a supportive community. I want people who lift each other up, who help everyone succeed, that we share the wealth of our knowledge and experience. I don't want people who are going to treat other people like garbage simply because they come from a different background, or they have a blue-collar profession, or they're not as wealthy. Nah, I don't need you in my community. I don't need you in my life. I have intentionally weeded those people out of my life. I can't tolerate it. They're just not good people. Not good people. We're watching it right now. Money doesn't buy class, taste, morality, wisdom. It does not. So anyway, I can't believe I had to make this video, but anyway. Yeah. If you're interested in my communities, in every newsletter, every article on Substack, in the bio at the bottom, I have a link where you can apply to join. So either the career community, which helps people get promoted, get a new job, find a new job, interview well, all that good stuff, build your career. I have a small business community really about solopreneurship. It's about leaving your 9-to-5 job and building your own business to escape so you can do stuff like this. Here I am on a Wednesday hiking in the mountains in the forest all by my lonesome. Very quiet, very peaceful. I love it. And then I have the Invincible Life community, which is really about empowering yourself, building your confidence, investing in yourself, becoming so confident and empowered that you get to call the shots in your work and life, and life is better when you do. Trust me. All right. Thanks for listening if you've let it play this far. Enjoy the rest of your day.